something really bad has just started happening on the internet. It could deceive you, and it actually begins with Resident Evil Requiem, though it's not its fault. It's one of the best reviewed games of the year. I've been hooked on it. It's absolutely fantastic. Even the harshest of reviews mostly just wonder if it's a bit uneven. And in the words of one reviewer for Video Gamer, a 9 out of 10 on Metacritic, quote, "If you haven't checked the pre-order bonuses yet, you might want to commit," which is a very odd thing to say. Who knows, maybe the reviewer, Brian Merrygold, doesn't have English as a first language. Maybe he was having a bad day and the editors simply just didn't catch it. But the thing is, the whole review is really odd. There's actually not much engagement with, well, the content of Requiem. It almost feels like it's written by someone who just looked at other people's reviews. But here's the thing, that's actually incorrect. It's incorrect because this was not made by a someone. The entity behind it is called Brian Merrygold, but the thing is, Brian Merrygold is not a real human. All this was flagged by Andres Aquino, who by the way is a real person and did actually review Resident Evil Requiem. He was checking the critical consensus when he found Video Gamer's review. Now here's the thing, Video Gamer isn't some tiny random site. It's a UK game site that has existed for years and it's trusted enough to be in Metacritic. But this review is clearly a fake review. It's seemingly just been cobbled together using previews and a language model. And functionally, it is worthless. It doesn't describe the experience of playing the game or anything meaningful to the reader. It's completely hollow, as is the writer, because Brian Merrygold is an attempt to fake a writer. He even has a profile, and it's bizarre. It claims he's got a master's degree in English Lit from the University of Sussex. Brian's even got an X account, though it is blank, and we can see plenty of reviews and articles attributed to him on Video Gamer. Though curiously, there are even more attributed to him that are about online casinos, so gambling. This is all quite weird, but it does make sense when you read his background and you see, quote, "an experienced iGaming and sports betting analyst." But then you look at Brian Merrygold's profile picture, where the file name is ChatGPT image October 20, 2025. Because yeah, it does actually seem like most of Video Gamer's current staff are fake people. They are Gen AI creations that are faking the operation of a real website, and certainly a website that actually used to be real with real writers. So we now have fake writers at a real site who have been given a simulacrum of existence, all in an attempt to get around the most obvious failings of Gen AI writing. Obviously, nobody believes it. Do you know who especially doesn't believe it? Google. If you're truly in the know, you may be thinking about Glorbo right now. You see, back in 2023, we highlighted the coming of Glorbo, a massive spiritual event for the entire world. But in reality, it was a World of Warcraft community's attempt to troll sites like Z-League and The Portal, which were basically all fake, by creating Reddit threads about fake characters and fake events. You see, those sites were SEO farms. They basically just scraped what people were talking about on Reddit. They'd then generate an article and publish the article to drive search traffic, ideally to, apps, advertising, that kind of thing. Back then, it was so pathetically obvious that it was mostly just a joke. But this time round, it is a little bit different, because it's happening with a real outlet. It's happening with Video Gamer. Real outlets have got fact checks, they have editors, they have reputations, all of these things that make you think, well, they probably won't publish heinous bullshit. And implicit in that is that if they get something wrong, they should fix it because, they want you to come back. Obviously, sites like Z-League and The Portal are things that you've never heard of, don't trust, and, don't really have any history. That means that Google stymies them, right? They don't appear at the top of searches. You see, Google search algorithms are supposed to be favoring actual authored content, so real writers with bylines and an editorial history. And that would mean that a scraper can't just farm whatever the current, talked about game is to get to the top of Google and get a bunch of quick money for exploiting a system rather than providing something of value. But a site with a long legacy absolutely can do that. And that is why this fake review ended up on Metacritic and impacted the score for this game. Now, it's not there anymore, thankfully. Metacritic told Eurogamer that they will never include an AI-generated review, and that if they discover one, the cost is removal and severing ties with the outlet while they investigate. Which is good, and as much as reducing reviews to scores is frustrating for nuance, Metacritic does at least respect the people who do care about the reviews. But it all flags up a kind of spooky truth and a bit of a new world that we're entering here. We are now beyond articles filled with regurgitated or scraped information, like the Glorbo stuff. We're now seeing companies purchase established websites, fire the human staff, and then replace them with Gen AI content, and then hide behind that legacy and hide behind the brand name that they acquired to disguise all of this, even going as far as to create full profiles for these fake writers. It's pretty bad. It's not speculation, and now it's time to talk about the whole corporate story behind it. What I'm going to talk about isn't speculation. It is the account of staff who used to work at Video Gamer, the account of real humans. So, whenever ClickOut acquired the site and took over, they started doing gambling and casino coverage. Loads of the staff left in protest, and it was odd to see a site called Video Gamer that we know for video games have on its little Google thing, video game and online, like, casino news. That just felt odd, but you can kind of see why. I have to imagine that ads and casino content pay out pretty well. Now, one of these writers, Max Nickel, claims that she was supposed to write the Resident Evil 9 review for the site, but then she was laid off alongside most of the other editors and staff back in February. Now, that is when Video Gamer's corporate owner, ClickOut Media, decided to lay off most of their editorial staff. Not just at Video Gamer, but also at Esports Insider and The Escapist. Now, after forcing many of those staff to sign NDAs in order to get their severance, they basically just replaced them with some AI-generated stuff. But not completely new AI-gen stuff. It's stuff that they were already doing to pump out loads of casino recommendations. Yeah, this is really weird, isn't it? And the only way they could expect their casino articles to do well is, of course, the legacy of these sites. And that means that, say, videogamer.com can actually pull off this Gen AI bullshit business model in a way that some random site that somebody just started up yesterday to do a grift, well, fundamentally couldn't. But the levels of banditry actually do go deeper. So this niche website here is Adventure Gamers. It's operated since 1998 and it was bought out last year. Now, its forum archives have got more than 2 decades of niche information from people passionate about those games that have all now been wiped because the site has refocused to being about online slots and casinos, which is exactly what you would expect if you went to adventuregamer.com. And what we see is that company after company, the pattern is the same. Buy a legacy site, fire all the staff, and puppet the corpse. And ClickOut are not the only group doing this. There are companies like Valnet who buy up sites, fire everyone, and then retain an endless tide of new writers, paying them absolute peanuts to just churn out content. It's one of the reasons why the quality of written content across loads of websites has just kind of decreased over time. And I'm hesitant to blame those writers because the same thing that limits, say, the Portal and, Glorbo and all of that from exploiting SEO is actually what pressures all of the humans into working in a very SEO-friendly way. They essentially have to now. That's why you see guides across so many sites, as one little example. So what we're seeing is very little traction on high-effort, unique, original reporting, and basically just the press and formalized, structured outlets with meaningful backing kind of being pressured like never before on so many different fronts. And we've an example of that from the very same week the Resi 9 review was published. VGC revealed that Ziff Davis was laying off most of the editorial staff at Eurogamer and at the YouTube outlet Outside Xbox. And of course, this was not the first round. All of these sites were acquired in 2024 when the previous owner, ReadPop, just wanted out of the media business. And, well, these sites have just been cut and cut and cut since. It's a good thing the Digital Foundry just got out and got to be independent, holy shit. Now, the people who have been gutted by all of this, well, some of them are trying to fight back. We've got outlets like VGC and Aftermath that have sprung up as kind of independent, user-funded alternatives, some being free of advertising and all the SEO mandates that would otherwise just have them pumping out guides until they literally die. Now, Aftermath, in the days after this news broke, they published a year's worth of long-form investigative reporting on the sheer scale of what ClickOut has done. They have interviews with former staff. They have loads of evidence. Now, that is the kind of reporting that's valuable, but that's hard to publish anywhere else because it isn't guaranteed clicks. In a world where article content is primarily distributed via the likes of like Google's search algorithm, you just can't really get traction and stuff like that. But the thing is, these independent outlets don't have the scale or the structural backing of the institutions that they came from. And of course, if the writers who powered a lot of these institutions are gone, then, well, we've got shells that just get left behind for the likes of Clickout to acquire and then crawl their way into and puppet around, in many cases, by just pumping out loads of AI bullshit and trying to obfuscate it by making up fake writers with fake degrees from universities that they never went to. It's absolute peak banditry that is preying on all of the systems that are causing the issues we've got with online published content, but most importantly, it's preying on you. Resident Evil Requiem is the kind of game that is perfect for this type of fake review, because it's a highly previewed game, there's a whole series worth of writing to steal from, and the likelihood that someone would have a good experience with the game regardless of the review, because the game is bloody brilliant. Now, if it hadn't have been, then someone might have bought the game and wasted their time on something they really shouldn't have, because they believed a review that looked like a real review, but actually was fake. Basically, because they put their trust in someone who doesn't exist. And, they were tricked, because it was made to look like it was done by someone who exists. And the worry is that the more of these fakes happen, the more the informational space just gets polluted and polluted and polluted. That is bad for truth. And I guess what it all comes down to here is trust, and how everything is leading to a future where trust is just going to be in short supply. When you read or watch a review, you are taking someone else's opinion and considering it for how you plan to spend your valuable time and often your valuable money. The review represents someone trying to communicate their experience with you, even if you disagree with them. You trust that they're earnestly trying to do that. But Brian Merrygold cannot communicate with you, because Brian Merrygold doesn't exist. It's a pile of generated text designed only to manipulate online systems and get your attention. You cannot trust it. It is literally designed to deceive you and make money off you. This is bad. This is not something that can continue. And if you're looking for something or someone to blame, I would say it's the likes of Valnet and the likes of Clickout. They are just bandits. For years and years, they've been doing their banditry, and now that they have access to new tools, they have new ways to practice banditry. Fuck them, and I'll see you in the next video.